In this video, we will learn how to read large files in Java and without using like any sophisticated framework, just like a plain Java. And the goal here would be like how we can read them memory first when they are small file, and what implications we have when we read them in like together in a memory when the file size is like millions of rows, and how we would read a large file using the different classes like BufferedReader, using Java NIO package, files API, and so on. So we'll also see how the Lambda plays a role here in this approach. So that's the goal of this video. So here I have like a prep file method. What it's doing is that it's writing 100 million records. So the 100 million records, what we are doing here is that we have a buffer writer and using in-stream from streams API with the range from 1 to the row count, which is like 100 million, and then for each element we're writing that to a file. So basically it's writing like 1 to 3 like a sequence till 100 million, and we are flushing the buffer. So that makes prepares the file for this test. And the first thing that we're going to do is like we're going to read the small file. What the read small file is doing here is that it is using the Java NIO files class, and here we have like a read all lines method, which is reading all the line from the file in memory, and then we are printing each of the entry here. So what will happen is like when we run this code, read small file tries to loads all the record in our memory, and since the number of records are too high, it end up blowing up the memory. So we also have like other options here, like how we can read the large file. We'll see that later, but first let's see the output here. So we are expecting that the read small file should turns or ends up into throwing the out of memory error. So I'm running this. Alright, so as we can see that the execution end up in out of memory error. So yeah, so when we read the file, large file, using the files.readLines method, it is reading all the content in memory and then it's end up blowing the memory. So next we will look into how we can read file one item at a time instead of reading everything in memory, and we'll look out for the different options we have in Java. So the first one is using BufferedReader. So BufferedReader class allows reading a one line or a defined buffer size that we can configure and then read from the file. So as you can see here, we have a BufferedReader. BufferedReader has a method called readLine. There are other options as well to read the defined size of the buffer, but yeah, here we are interested in reading one line at a time, so we can directly use this method, and we are printing it as output here. So this should be not like putting load on memory. We read one item at a time and we process it and then write it to the sink. To demonstrate that, we just like printing to the console here. So let's run that. So the output that we are expecting here is that it is going to print one number, like so since we have a sequence from 1 to 100 million, it's going to print that on the console. Alright, so as we can see that these sequences are printing on the console. That means our logic is working and we did not end up in the out of memory error. So I'm going to stop this and look into another option. So let's comment out this one and let's see the another option. So in this option we are using Java NIO package, and it provides the files class. So Java NIO package provides a lot of helper classes, and here the files is one of them. Files provides a way to create a buffer reader, and we can get the buffer reader and then convert that to a stream of strings using the lines method. So first we get the buffer reader, from there we get the stream of content, and this is going to be like scrolling one content at a time, and then we are chaining the for each method with system.println. So with this we will be reading the content from file as a stream of records, and then we will be processing that and eventually writing to the sink. So this should also not put a pressure on the memory, and we should be able to read the file with one item at a time. So let's execute this and see in action. Alright, so as we can see that the sequences are getting printed here. It will be printed till 100 million. So yeah, so I'm going to stop this one too, and we'll move to the next one. Let's comment out this and comment the last one. So read large file with files API and lines. Now in this case, you can see that we can directly use lines method also defined on the files class. So with this we get the stream of content, and we can process that and output to the sink. The one thing here difference with the previous one is that we don't necessarily need buffer reader here, and the directly available lines method is very helpful, so we use that instead. So the approach is going to be similar to it. It's going to be iterating over stream of records, and then processing that, and you can eventually write it to the sink. Here we are printing it to the console. So let's run this. Alright, so it started printing on the console. Okay, so what's the summary of the exercise that we did? So we first created the file with a large number of content into it, about like 100 million integer values in a file. Then we saw that how we can read all the content like in a one go, and that end up blowing the memory when the size of the file is huge. So read small file would work when you have like a small file, the content size is not that much, you could read everything in a memory. But like as your file size grows, this is going to put like lot of strain on your memory, and potentially you will have like of memory error. So the advisable approach would be to read one item at a time, and Java provides buffer reader for that. And then there is also files API from the NIO package. So you can probably use a combination of buffer reader there, or there's also a helper method called .lines on the files API itself, so you can use that also to read one item at a time. Now this might be like a very basic approach to read large file, but in a production environment probably this might not be most efficient approach, because it will still take a lot of time to process one record at a time. So there are a lot of frameworks that we can use to tackle the problem there, which uses like a chunk size, where you read like a chunk of records at a time, and then you process them together and then write it to the output. So I think there is a Spring Batch that does it. There is also Java based framework that does like file processing efficiently. And then there are systems like there are framework like Spark, which kind of like splits the file into smaller ones, and then you can read them parallelly and efficiently. So yeah, there are different ways like in production you would like to tackle this, but this video is basically focusing on like a simple approach where you can like read one item at a time in a file instead of like reading everything together when you have like a large file. So yeah, that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.